Welcome to Christmas Stories for Sleep, where tonight's cozy tale will transport you to the snowy town of Hollyford, New Hampshire. Settle in, get comfortable, and let this heartwarming Christmas romance carry you into peaceful dreams. Our story begins with Dr. Charlotte Davies, a successful pediatric surgeon who's about to discover that sometimes the best gifts come when you least expect them. The windshield wipers struggled against the falling snow as Dr. Charlotte Davies navigated her rental car down the familiar, yet somehow foreign, streets of Hollyford. 10 years. It had been 10 years since she'd last driven down Maple Street, past the old Victorian houses draped in twinkling Christmas lights, their wraparound porches adorned with evergreen garlands and crimson bows. She tightened her grip on the steering wheel, her designer leather gloves a stark contrast to the mittens she used to wear as a child building snowmen in these very yards. The car's GPS announced her arrival at 42 Winterberry Lane, but Charlotte didn't need the electronic voice to tell her she was home. The two-story colonial, with its cheerful yellow siding and white shutters, looked exactly as it had the day she'd left for medical school, save for the elaborate Christmas display that now transformed the front yard into a winter wonderland. Her father had clearly outdone himself this year. Illuminated reindeer grazed on the snow-covered lawn, a vintage sleigh overflowed with wrapped presents, and thousands of white lights turned the old oak tree into a glowing beacon. The sight should have warmed her heart, but instead, Charlotte felt a familiar tightness in her chest, the same feeling she got when she walked past the decorated pediatric ward at Boston General, knowing she'd be spending another Christmas Eve in surgery rather than around a tree. She pulled into the driveway behind her mother's sedan, turned off the engine, and sat for a moment in the silence. Through the living room window, she could see the warm glow of a fire and the distinctive silhouette of her parents' Christmas tree. Her phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Morrison. Emergency surgery moved to Tuesday. Don't forget to review the Patterson case files. Even here, 300 miles from Boston, her other life intruded. Charlotte typed a quick acknowledgement, then deleted 3 different messages to her surgical team about various cases. She was here for her parents' anniversary party. Everything else could wait 48 hours. The front door flew open before she could knock, and suddenly she was enveloped in her mother's familiar vanilla and cinnamon scent. "Charlotte! Oh, sweetheart, you made it!" Helen Davies pulled back to study her daughter's face, her own eyes bright with tears. "You look tired, honey, and thin. Have you been eating?" "Hi, Mom." Charlotte returned the embrace, surprised by how much she'd missed this. The simple comfort of her mother's hug. "I'm fine. The drive was just longer than I remembered with the snow." "Well, come in. Come in. Your father's been checking the window every 5 minutes." "Harold, she's here." Charlotte stepped into the foyer, immediately hit by a wave of nostalgia. The smell of pine needles and her mother's famous sugar cookies, the sound of Bing Crosby crooning from the old stereo, the sight of her baby pictures still lining the stairway wall. It was as if she'd stepped back in time. "There's my brilliant doctor." Her father appeared from the kitchen, flour dusting his University of New Hampshire sweatshirt. "Come here, kiddo." His hug was just as she remembered. Strong, steady, and smelling faintly of pipe tobacco even though he'd quit smoking years ago. Charlotte closed her eyes, allowing herself this moment of being just their daughter, not doctor. Davies with her fellowships and published papers and life-or-death decisions. "You've been baking," she observed, brushing flour from his shoulder. "Your mother has me rolling out sugar cookies for tomorrow's pageant fundraiser. You'd think after 30 years of teaching high school chemistry, I'd be better at following a recipe." He grinned, the corners of his eyes crinkling in that familiar way. "But enough about cookies. How's my favorite surgeon? Saving lives and breaking hearts in Boston?" "Harold," her mother chided gently. "Let her get settled before the interrogation begins." "Charlotte, I've put you in your old room. Everything's just as you left it." Charlotte doubted that. Nothing stayed the same, no matter how much people pretended otherwise. But she smiled and collected her suitcase from the car, trudging up the familiar stairs to her childhood bedroom. Her mother hadn't been exaggerating. Her high school debate trophies still lined the bookshelf. Her collection of medical textbooks from undergraduate still occupied the desk. Even her old Hollyford High School drama club poster remained tacked to the bulletin board. A reminder of the life she'd had before medical school consumed everything. She traced her finger over the poster, remembering the spring production of Our Town her senior year. She'd played Emily, and Ethan Vance had been her George. The memory hit her unexpectedly. Ethan's laughing brown eyes, the way he'd forgotten his lines during dress rehearsal and improvised so brilliantly that the drama teacher had kept his version. Charlotte shook her head, banishing the memory. Ethan was probably married by now, living in some other small town with a wife who baked cookies from scratch and knew all the neighbors' names. That's what people did when they stayed. They built lives, had families, became part of the community fabric in ways that surgeons with 18-hour shifts simply couldn't. "Charlotte, dinner's ready?" her mother called from downstairs. She changed out of her cashmere sweater into an old Boston University sweatshirt she found in her dresser, instantly feeling more like herself, or at least like the self she used to be. Downstairs, her parents had set the dining room table with the good china, and her mother had prepared all her favorites: roast chicken, green beans with almonds, and her famous corn pudding. "So," her father said, passing the potatoes, "how long can you stay?" "Your mother's hoping through New Year's, but I told her that's probably pushing it." "Just until the day after tomorrow," Charlotte admitted, watching their faces fall slightly. "I have a surgery scheduled Tuesday morning. A 6-year-old with a congenital heart defect. She's been waiting months for this procedure." "Of course," her mother said quickly. "We understand. We're just so glad you could come at all. The anniversary party tomorrow night wouldn't be the same without you. Speaking of which," her father added, "did your mother mention you're helping with the pageant?" Charlotte's fork paused midway to her mouth. "What pageant?" "The annual Christmas pageant," her mother said brightly. "You remember, at the community center, the one you were in every year from kindergarten through high school? Well, there's been a bit of a crisis. Margaret Henley, who usually directs it, broke her hip last week. Poor thing's laid up until after New Year's. They were going to cancel the whole thing until Ethan volunteered to take over." The corn pudding suddenly felt dry in Charlotte's mouth. "Ethan? Ethan Vance, dear. You remember him, don't you? From high school? He's the drama teacher now, took over when Mr. Paulson retired. Anyway, he's doing his best, but between teaching and being a single father, he's overwhelmed. I might have mentioned that my accomplished daughter was coming to town and would be happy to help." "Mom, I'm only here for 2 days." "I know, sweetheart, but the pageant is tomorrow night, right after the anniversary party. They just need help with the final rehearsal tomorrow morning. You were always so good at organizing things, and Ethan specifically asked if you might have time to lend a hand." Ethan had asked for her? Charlotte took a long sip of water, processing this information. He was single, a father, still in Hollyford, still involved in theater. "I suppose I could stop by the rehearsal," she heard herself saying, "just to see if there's anything quick I can do to help." Her mother beamed. "Wonderful. It starts at 9 at the community center. Oh, Charlotte, it'll be just like old times." But as Charlotte helped clear the dishes, she knew her mother was wrong. Nothing would be like old times. She was Dr. Charlotte Davies now, with responsibilities and a life 300 miles away. Tomorrow she'd help with the pageant, attend her parents' party, and then return to her real life in Boston. At least, that was the plan. Later that evening, Charlotte found herself in the living room, curled up in her father's old leather chair, with a cup of her mother's homemade hot chocolate. Her parents had retired early, leaving her alone with the crackling fire and the softly glowing Christmas tree. She should have been reviewing the Patterson case files, but instead, she found herself staring at the ornaments, each one a small piece of family history. There was the paper angel she'd made in first grade, now yellowed with age, the glass snowflake from their trip to New York when she was 12, the photo ornament from her high school graduation, her younger self beaming with pride and possibility. Her phone buzzed. Another message from the hospital. Charlotte turned it face down without reading it. For just this moment, she wanted to pretend she was simply Charlotte Davies, home for Christmas, sitting by the fire in her childhood home. Outside, the snow continued to fall, blanketing Hollyford in pristine white. Somewhere across town, Ethan Vance was probably tucking his child into bed, maybe reading The Night Before Christmas or singing a lullaby. The thought stirred something in Charlotte's chest. Not quite regret, but something close to it. She finished her hot chocolate and headed upstairs. Tomorrow would be complicated enough without dwelling on what-ifs and might-have-beens. She had a pageant to help organize, an anniversary party to attend, and a life to get back to. But as she lay in her childhood bed, listening to the familiar creaks of the old house and the distant sound of church bells, marking the hour, Charlotte couldn't shake the feeling that coming home for Christmas might change more than she'd bargained for. The Hollyford Community Center looked exactly as Charlotte remembered, right down to the faded candy cane decorations flanking the entrance and the marquee with missing letters that now read, "C.H. Ismas P. John, Deck 23. She pulled into the snow-covered parking lot at 8:55 a.m., noting the handful of minivans and SUVs already there, the universal vehicles of small-town parents. She sat in her rental car for a moment, watching her breath fog in the cold air. Through the frosted windows of the community center, she could see movement, shadows of people setting up for rehearsal. Her phone showed 3 missed calls from the hospital, but she'd promised her mother. Just a few hours. How hard could it be? The double doors squeaked on their hinges as she pushed through, and immediately she was hit by the sensory memory of countless childhood Christmases, the smell of dust and old, paint mixed with pine, the echo of voices in the high-ceilinged auditorium, the sight of the same red velvet curtains that had framed every production since 1962. Charlotte? Charlotte Davies? She turned at the familiar voice, and there he was. Ethan Vance stood by the stage, holding a clipboard and wearing a Hollyford High School Drama Club sweatshirt that had seen better days. His dark hair was slightly mussed, as if he'd been running his hands through it, and there was a smudge of what looked like glitter on his cheek. But his eyes, those warm brown eyes that had once made her forget her lines on stage, were exactly the same. Ethan. She managed a smile, acutely aware of her designer boots and tailored coat in this room, full of snow boots and practical parkas. My mom said you needed help. His face broke into that easy grin she remembered. Charlotte Davies, saving the day. Some things never change. He crossed to her, and for an awkward moment, they stood there, unsure whether to shake hands or hug. They settled for a brief, somewhat clumsy embrace that left Charlotte's heart racing inexplicably. I heard you're a doctor now, he said, stepping back. Pediatric surgeon, right? That's incredible. Thanks. And you're teaching drama. Mr. Paulson's shoes were pretty big to fill. Tell me about it. I still accidentally call the prop room Paulson's Palace. He gestured to the chaos around them. Welcome to Christmas pageant crisis mode. We've got 23 kids, ages 5 to 15, one partially constructed stable set that may or may not collapse, a donkey costume that's missing its head, and approximately 6 parents who all have very strong opinions about how things should be done. Sounds like you need a miracle, not a surgeon. At this point, I'll take whatever help I can get. His expression softened. Seriously, Charlotte, thanks for coming. I know you must be busy. Before she could respond, a small whirlwind in a tutu and snow boots came racing across the auditorium. Daddy! Madison says I can't be an angel because I lost my halo. But I told her that angels don't really need halos, and... The little girl skidded to a stop, staring up at Charlotte with wide brown eyes that were unmistakably her father's. Who are you? Lily, this is Miss Charlotte. She's here to help with the pageant. Charlotte, this is my daughter, Lily. Charlotte crouched down to Lily's level, her doctor's instincts kicking in. Hi, Lily. I like your tutu. Pink is my favorite color, too. Lily's face lit up. Really? Daddy says his favorite color is blue, but that's boring. Are you gonna fix our pageant? Daddy's been using his worried face all week, Lily, Ethan said, a slight blush creeping up his neck. It's okay, Charlotte said, standing. How old are you, Lily? 7 3/4. I'll be 8 in February. That's almost 8, which is practically 9. Charlotte smiled at the familiar kid logic. 7 3/4 is a very good age. Are you playing an angel in the pageant? I'm the announcing angel. I get to tell the shepherds about baby Jesus. Lily's face fell slightly. If I can find my halo. Lily, a harried-looking woman with a measuring tape draped around her neck, called from across the room. We need to hem your costume. That's Mrs. Patterson, Lily informed Charlotte in a stage whisper. She's nice, but she smells like mothballs. She scampered off, tutu bouncing with each step. Ethan watched her go with a mixture of love and exasperation. Sorry about that. 7-year-olds have no filter. She's wonderful, Charlotte said, meaning it. How long have you been doing this on your own? Something flickered across his face. 4 years. Her mom left when Lily was 3, said small-town life wasn't what she'd signed up for. He shook his head, seeming to realize he'd overshared. Anyway, let me show you what we're dealing with. For the next hour, Charlotte found herself immersed in the controlled chaos of community theater. The pageant, she learned, was a Hollyford tradition dating back 60 years. Every child in town wanted to be in it, which meant creative casting solutions like having 6 shepherds, 4 wise men, and an entire heavenly host of angels. The problem, Ethan explained as they reviewed his notes, is that Margaret had everything in her head. 20 years of directing this thing, and she never wrote anything down. So now I'm trying to recreate blocking from the collective memory of sugar high children. Charlotte studied the stage, her analytical mind automatically categorizing problems and solutions. Okay. First things first, where's your production Bible? My what? A master document with all the information. Script, blocking notes, costume assignments, prop list, sound cues. She pulled out her phone. Email me what you have, and I'll create a digital version we can update in real time. You know we're talking about a 30-minute children's pageant, not Broadway, right? She looked up from her phone to find him smiling at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. What? Nothing. It's just, you're still the same Charlotte, who color-coded her debate notes and organized study groups with military precision. And you're still the same Ethan who thinks winging it is a valid rehearsal strategy, she shot back, surprising herself with how easily they fell into their old rhythm. Touché. He handed her his clipboard. Okay, Dr. Davies, work your magic. The next 2 hours flew by. Charlotte threw herself into the project with the same intensity she brought to surgery, creating spreadsheets, reorganizing the rehearsal schedule, and somehow convincing the warring faction of stage mothers to work together on costume repairs. She found the missing donkey head in the kitchen freezer. No one knew how it got there, mediated a dispute between 2 wise men over who got to carry the gold, and helped Ethan block the final scene 5 minutes until places Ethan called out. And Charlotte watched the children scramble into position. Lily appeared at her elbow, halo now firmly bobby-pinned to her head. Miss Charlotte, will you watch me? Daddy always watches, but it's nice to have more people watching. The more people watching, the more special it is. I'll watch, Charlotte promised, charmed despite herself. The run-through was endearingly chaotic. Joseph forgot his lines and improvised something about needing to find a hotel with good Wi-Fi. One of the sheep decided mid-scene to become a dinosaur instead. The Star of Bethlehem, rigged to descend from the ceiling, got stuck halfway and swayed ominously over the manger. But there was something magical about it, too. The children's faces shining with excitement, their voices raised in slightly off-key carols, the way the parents watched with phones out and proud tears in their eyes. Charlotte found herself genuinely laughing when the youngest wise man announced he'd brought the baby Jesus myrrh, gold, and a Nintendo Switch. It's terrible, isn't it? Ethan appeared beside her, running a hand through his already disheveled hair. It's perfect, Charlotte said, surprising herself by meaning it. It's real and honest and full of joy. That's what Christmas should be. He looked at her with that unreadable expression again. You know, for someone who hasn't been home in years, you still get this place. I never said I didn't get it. I just chose something different. Fair enough. He checked his watch. Okay, people, that's a wrap for rehearsal. Remember, call time is 5:30 tonight. Costumes, not street clothes. As the families dispersed, Charlotte helped Ethan stack chairs and collect discarded props. They worked in comfortable silence, and she was struck by how natural it felt, being here with him. Hey, Ethan said as they carried the last of the angel wings to the storage closet. I know you've got your parents' party tonight, but if you have time before that. Lily and I were going to grab lunch at Rosie's. You could join us? As a thank you for saving our pageant. Charlotte knew she should say no. She had calls to return, emails to answer, and getting lunch with her high school ex and his adorable daughter was definitely not maintaining appropriate boundaries. But Lily was already by the door, bouncing on her toes and looking hopeful. Rosie still makes those candy cane milkshakes? Charlotte asked. Every December since 1985, Ethan confirmed. Then how can I say no? Rosie's Diner was another unchanged landmark, with its red vinyl booths, checkerboard floor, and walls covered in decades of Hollyford high school memorabilia. Charlotte slid into a booth across from Ethan and Lily, immediately spotting their senior class photo on the wall. There they were, young and impossibly confident, unaware of how different their lives would become. I want pancakes, Lily announced, with extra whipped cream and a cherry on top. It's lunchtime, Ethan pointed out. Pancakes are an all-day food, Lily countered with 7-year-old logic. She's got a point, Charlotte said, earning a delighted grin from Lily and an eye roll from Ethan. They ordered pancakes for Lily, a burger for Ethan, and the soup and sandwich special for Charlotte, plus 3 candy cane milkshakes that arrived topped with impressive swirls of whipped cream and crushed candy canes. So, Ethan said, helping Lily cut her pancakes, Boston. Tell me about your life there. Charlotte gave him the sanitized version, the hospital, her tiny apartment with a view of the Charles River, the research she was doing on pediatric cardiac procedures. She didn't mention the 60-hour weeks, the missed birthdays, the way she sometimes fell asleep in her office because going home seemed pointless. Do you like being a surgeon? Lily asked through a mouthful of pancake. I do, Charlotte said. I get to help sick children feel better. That's good. I want to be a veterinarian when I grow up, or a ballet dancer, or maybe both, a ballet dancing veterinarian. Lily paused, considering. Do you have any kids? Lily, Ethan warned. What? It's a normal question. Madison's mom says you should always marry someone who likes kids if you want kids. Charlotte felt a familiar pang. No, I don't have any kids. My job keeps me pretty busy. That's okay, Lily said matter-of-factly. Daddy doesn't have a wife, and he does just fine. Except he can't braid hair, and he always burns the grilled cheese. Okay, that's enough sharing family secrets, Ethan said, his cheeks pink. Why don't you go pick a song on the jukebox? Lily scampered off with a quarter, leaving them alone in the booth. The silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken questions and decade-old history. She's amazing, Charlotte said finally. You've done a wonderful job with her. Thanks. It's been an adventure. Not exactly how I pictured my life at 32, but I wouldn't change it. He paused, stirring his milkshake with his straw. What about you? Is Boston everything you dreamed it would be? Charlotte thought about her corner office, her publications, the respect she'd earned in her field. Then she thought about her empty apartment, the Christmas tree she hadn't bothered to put up, the way she'd spent last Christmas Eve in the OR while everyone else was with family. It's exactly what I worked for, she said, which wasn't really an answer at all. Ethan seemed to understand. You know, when you left for med school, I was so angry. Not at you, he added quickly. At myself, for not being brave enough to follow my own dreams. But then, I ended up exactly where I was supposed to be. Funny how life works out. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I'd stayed? The question hung between them, heavy with possibility. Ethan met her eyes, and for a moment, Charlotte saw an echo of the boy who'd held her hand backstage, promising they'd always be friends no matter where life took them. Sometimes, he admitted, but then I think about Lily and my students and the life I've built here, and I realize that everything happened the way it was supposed to. We were 18, Charlotte. We barely knew ourselves, let alone what we wanted forever. He was right, of course. They'd been children playing at love, making promises they couldn't possibly keep. But sitting across from him now, watching him carefully clean whipped cream from Lily's face while she chattered about her favorite Christmas songs, Charlotte felt a surprising ache of loss for the path not taken. I should probably go, she said, checking her phone. I need to help Mom set up for tonight. Of course. Ethan signaled for the check. Thanks again for your help today. I know it's not how you plan to spend your morning. It was fun, Charlotte said, meaning it. Good luck tonight. I'll try to stop by after the party if I can. Daddy, is Miss Charlotte coming to our house for Christmas dinner? Lily asked, returning from the jukebox as Jingle Bell Rock started playing. Charlotte has her own family dinner, sweetheart. We have lots of food. Grandma always makes too much turkey, and she said we need more people at the table since Uncle Mike moved to California. Charlotte felt her heart twist at the hopeful expression on Lily's face. That's very sweet of you to invite me, but you could come, Lily persisted. We have presents and everything. Daddy always buys extra presents just in case someone unexpected shows up. Last year, the mailman stayed for pie. The mailman's wife had left him. Ethan explained, mortified it was a whole thing. Lily, Miss Charlotte probably needs to get back to Boston. Actually, Charlotte heard herself say, I don't fly out until tomorrow afternoon. Lily's face lit up like the star atop a Christmas tree. So you can come. Daddy, tell her she can come. Ethan looked at Charlotte, a mixture of embarrassment and something else in his eyes. You're welcome to join us if you'd like. My mom would love to see you. She still talks about your performance as Emily in Our Town. Charlotte knew she should politely decline. Tomorrow was Christmas Eve, a day for families and traditions she was no longer part of. But looking at Lily's expectant face and Ethan's cautiously hopeful expression, she found herself nodding. What time? 2:00, Ethan said, his smile widening. And fair warning, my mother will probably cry. She always cries when people come home for Christmas. As Charlotte drove back to her parents' house, she tried to rationalize what had just happened. She was simply being polite, accepting a kind invitation from old friends. It didn't mean anything that her heart had skipped when Ethan smiled at her, or that Lily had already wrapped herself around Charlotte's little finger. She was Dr. Charlotte Davies, with a life and career waiting for her in Boston. This was just a brief detour down memory lane, a 48-hour return to a world she'd left behind. But as she pulled into her parents' driveway, she couldn't stop thinking about the way Ethan had looked at her in that booth, like he was seeing both who she'd been and who she'd become. And for the first time in years, Charlotte wondered if the life she'd built was really the one she wanted. The Davies house glowed with warm light as guests began arriving for the anniversary party. Charlotte stood in her childhood bedroom, staring at her reflection in the mirror. She'd packed a simple black cocktail dress suitable for hospital fundraisers, but it felt too severe for Hollyford. After a moment's hesitation, she pulled out a deep green velvet dress she'd spotted in her old closet, a remnant from college she'd apparently left behind. It still fit, though it hugged curves that hadn't been there at 19. The color brought out the green flecks in her hazel eyes, and she'd left her hair down in soft waves instead of her usual practical bun. She looked younger, somehow, more like the Charlotte who'd left Hollyford than the Dr. Davies who saved lives in Boston. Oh, sweetheart, you look beautiful. Her mother appeared in the doorway, resplendent in burgundy silk. That dress always was perfect on you. Thanks, Mom. You look amazing. Dad's going to fall in love all over again. Helen's eyes misted. 50 years. Sometimes I can't believe it. It feels like yesterday we were young and planning our future, and now here we are, with a brilliant doctor for a daughter and a lifetime of memories. Charlotte hugged her mother, breathing in that familiar vanilla scent. I'm sorry I haven't been home more. I know I've missed a lot. Oh, honey, we understand. You're doing important work. We're so proud of you. Helen pulled back, cupping Charlotte's face. We just want you to be happy. Are you happy, sweetheart? It was the same question Ethan had essentially asked at lunch, wrapped in different words. Charlotte opened her mouth to give the automatic response. Of course she was happy. She had everything she'd worked for, but found she couldn't quite voice the lie to her mother. I'm figuring it out, she said instead. Helen studied her for a moment, then nodded. Well, that's honest at least. Come on, let's go celebrate before your father wonders where we've gone. The party was in full swing when they descended the stairs. The house was full of familiar faces, neighbors, family friends. her father's colleagues from the high school. Charlotte found herself pulled into conversation after conversation, answering the same questions about her life in Boston, her work at the hospital, whether she was seeing anyone special. Charlotte Davies. As I live and breathe. Mrs. Vance, Ethan's mother, pulled her into a perfume-scented embrace. Look at you, all grown up and saving lives. I'm so glad you're home for Christmas. Thank you, Mrs. Vance. It's good to see you. Oh, none of that Mrs. Vance business. You used to call me Linda, remember? When you and Ethan were rehearsing lines in my living room until all hours? Linda's eyes twinkled. He mentioned you helped with the pageant this morning, just like old times. It was fun, Charlotte admitted. Lily's quite the performer. That girl is the light of our lives. Been trying to get Ethan to date again. Find her a mother, but he's so focused on teaching and raising her right. Linda lowered her voice conspiratorially. Between you and me, I don't think he ever quite got over his first love. Before Charlotte could process that statement, Linda was swept away by another guest, leaving Charlotte standing by the Christmas tree with a glass of punch and racing thoughts. The party continued around her, laughter, Christmas music, the clink of glasses as guests toasted her parents' enduring love. Charlotte smiled and chatted, playing the part of the successful daughter home for the holidays. But her mind kept drifting to a small diner booth and brown eyes that still saw right through her carefully constructed walls. At 7:30, she slipped away from the party, grabbing her coat and keys. Sneaking out? Her father caught her at the door. Let me guess. The pageant? I promised I'd try to make it. Is that okay? Harold smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkling. Your mother and I were planning to walk over anyway. Nothing like a children's Christmas pageant to remind you what the season's really about. Go ahead, we'll see you there. The community center parking lot was packed, families streaming through the doors with excited children in costume. Charlotte found a seat near the back, trying to spot Ethan in the pre-show chaos. She finally located him stage left, kneeling to tie an angel's halo while simultaneously giving last-minute directions to a teenage stagehand. He'd changed into dark slacks and a Christmas green button-down, and Charlotte was struck again by how naturally he fit here. Confident, caring, completely in his element. This was his world. These were his people, and he was exactly where he belonged. The lights dimmed, and a hush fell over the audience. Ethan stepped onto the stage, and Charlotte felt a familiar flutter in her stomach. The same feeling she'd had watching him perform all those years ago. Good evening, and welcome to Hollyford's 60th annual Christmas pageant, he began, his teacher's voice carrying easily through the auditorium. What you're about to see is the product of many hours of hard work by our amazing children, with help from dedicated parents and volunteers. It may not be Broadway, but I promise you, it comes from the heart. So sit back, relax, and let our kids remind you of the magic of Christmas. The curtain rose on a chaotic Bethlehem, complete with shepherds, townspeople, and one rogue dinosaur who'd apparently negotiated his way into the scene. Charlotte found herself leaning forward, completely charmed by the earnest performances and creative interpretations. When Lily appeared as the announcing angel, Charlotte's heart swelled with an emotion she couldn't quite name. The little girl stood center stage, halo slightly askew, and delivered her lines with a conviction that would have impressed actual heavenly hosts. "Fear not," Lily proclaimed, throwing her arms wide and nearly knocking over a shepherd, "for I bring you good tidings of great joy. A baby has been born, and he's in a manger, which is like a bed for cows, but Mary made it nice with blankets." The audience chuckled, and Charlotte saw Ethan hiding a grin behind his hand. The pageant continued with all the expected mishaps. Joseph's beard fell off twice. One wise man forgot he was supposed to exit and stood frozen, until another wise man dragged him off stage, and the Star of Bethlehem finally descended, directly onto Mary's head. But there was something genuinely moving about it all. These children, with their improvised lines and crooked halos, captured something essential about Christmas. Joy, wonder, the celebration of love entering the world in the humblest way. The finale brought all the children on stage for Silent Night, their young voices raised in the familiar carol, Parents held up phones recording these precious moments. Charlotte noticed her own parents had arrived, her mother already dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. As the last note faded and the curtain fell, the audience erupted in enthusiastic applause. Ethan returned to the stage, looking slightly frazzled but genuinely happy. Thank you all for coming. There's a reception in the fellowship hall with cookies and hot chocolate, courtesy of the PTA. And if anyone sees a dinosaur, please remind him he belongs in the Jurassic period, not Bethlehem. Charlotte made her way to the fellowship hall, accepting a sugar cookie shaped like a star from a beaming PTA mother. She was scanning the crowd for Ethan when a small hand tugged at her dress. "Miss Charlotte, did you see me? Did you see me be the angel?" Lily bounced on her toes, still in costume but with her halo now dangling from one bobby pin. "I did see you. You were wonderful, the best announcing angel I've ever seen." "Really? Better than Madison last year?" She said her angel was better, but I think mine had more feeling. Lily paused, considering. "Daddy says feeling is the most important part of acting. Your daddy's right. And you definitely had feeling." "Lily," Ethan appeared slightly out of breath. "There you are. You can't just run off." "Oh, Charlotte, you made it. I wouldn't have missed it. You did an amazing job pulling this together in a week. We had help." His smile was warm, private, meant just for her. "Best assistant director I've ever had." "Assistant director? I thought I was crisis management." "Daddy, can Miss Charlotte come to the cast party?" Lily interrupted. "We're having it at our house because Grandma made too much food again." "Lily, we talked about this. It's for the kids and their families. But Miss Charlotte is like family. She helped with the pageant, and she's coming to Christmas dinner tomorrow, and she likes my tutu." Ethan looked apologetically at Charlotte. "You don't have to." "Actually," Charlotte said, surprising herself again, "a cast party sounds fun. If you're sure it's okay." "Of course it's okay." Linda Vance appeared, wrapping an arm around Charlotte's waist. "The more the merrier. Besides, I made enough food for an army. Ethan, why don't you drive Charlotte over? She doesn't need to move her car." Before Charlotte could protest, she found herself swept along by the Vance family tide. Ethan shot her a look that was part apology, part amusement. "Fair warning," he said as they walked to his car, a practical SUV with a booster seat in the back. "Cast parties at my house are chaotic. 20-something sugar-high kids, tired parents, and my mother trying to feed everyone." "Sounds perfect," Charlotte said, and meant it. The Vance house was a charming Victorian just a few blocks from the community center, its wraparound porch draped in white lights and evergreen garlands. Inside, it was warm and inviting, with comfortable furniture that had clearly been chosen for living, not show. Children's artwork covered the refrigerator, and photos documented Lily's growth from baby to confident 7-year-old. "Make yourself at home," Ethan said, taking her coat. "I need to help Mom set up the hot chocolate station before the hordes descend." Charlotte wandered into the living room, drawn to the Christmas tree in the corner. It was a far cry from her parents' perfectly coordinated tree. This one was covered in homemade ornaments, paper chains, and a liberal application of tinsel that suggested a 7-year-old's decorating philosophy. "I did most of it myself," Lily announced, appearing at her elbow. "Daddy helped with the high parts, but I picked where everything went." "Do you like the dinosaur ornament? I made it at school. Mrs. Johnson says dinosaurs probably didn't celebrate Christmas, but I think they would have if they'd known about it." "It's the most beautiful tree I've ever seen," Charlotte said sincerely. Soon the house filled with excited children and grateful parents. Charlotte found herself pulled into the comfortable chaos, helping distribute cookies, mediating a dispute over whose angel had the shiniest halo, and somehow ending up as the judge for an impromptu Christmas carol sing-off. "You're a natural," Ethan said, appearing at her side with 2 mugs of hot chocolate. "Sure you don't want to give up surgery and teach kindergarten?" "I think I'll stick to fixing hearts, thanks. Less glitter involved. But glitter is the best part." He had a smudge of it on his cheek again, and Charlotte had to resist the urge to brush it away. As the evening wore on, families gradually departed, until only a few stragglers remained. Charlotte helped Linda clean up, loading the dishwasher and wiping down counters sticky with cookie frosting. Just like old times, Linda said, echoing her earlier comment. You always did pitch in without being asked. I've missed having you around, Charlotte. I've missed being around, Charlotte admitted, surprising herself with the honesty. You know, Ethan never brought another girl home after you left. Oh, he dated, even married Lily's mother, but she was never really part of things, you know? Never quite fit the way you did. Charlotte didn't know how to respond to that, so she focused on drying dishes, her mind churning. Daddy, can I show Miss Charlotte my room? Lily asked, appearing in the doorway in Christmas pajamas. I cleaned it special for the party. It's getting late, sweetheart. Please, just for a minute? I want to show her my doctor kit. Charlotte caught Ethan's eye. I'd love to see your room, Lily. Lily's room was an explosion of pink and purple, with fairy lights strung around the windows and approximately 40 stuffed animals arranged on the bed. But what caught Charlotte's attention was the toy doctor kit prominently displayed on the dresser. See? It has everything. A stethoscope and bandages and even pretend medicine. Lily demonstrated each item with serious concentration. I practice on Mr. Bunny when he's sick. Stethoscope, Charlotte corrected gently. And you're very careful with your patients. That's important for a doctor. Or a veterinarian ballet dancer, Lily reminded her. Daddy says I can be anything I want if I work hard and be kind to people. Your daddy's absolutely right. Lily yawned hugely, and Ethan appeared in the doorway. Okay, Munchkin, time for bed. You've had a big night. But I'm not tired, Lily protested, yawning again. Charlotte stood. Thank you for showing me your room, Lily. Sleep tight. Wait! Lily scrambled to her dresser and pulled out a slightly crumpled piece of paper. I made this at school. It's an extra one. You can have it. It was a hand-drawn Christmas card featuring what appeared to be an angel with a stethoscope. Inside, in careful 7-year-old handwriting, it said, Merry Christmas, love. Lily Charlotte felt her throat tighten. This is beautiful. Thank you, Lily. I'll treasure it. Lily beamed and allowed herself to be tucked into bed. Charlotte waited in the hallway while Ethan said goodnight, listening to their quiet ritual of story and lullaby. It was achingly domestic, a glimpse into a life she'd never really considered for herself. Sorry about that, Ethan said, joining her in the hallway. She's a little obsessed with doctors lately. She's wonderful. You've done an amazing job raising her alone. They walked downstairs together, the house now quiet except for the sound of Linda humming in the kitchen. I should probably go, Charlotte said reluctantly. My parents will wonder what happened to me. Of course. Let me drive you back to your car. I can walk. It's only a few blocks. Charlotte Davies, my mother would never forgive me if I let you walk alone in the dark, even in Hollyford, especially in those heels. She laughed, allowing him to help her into her coat. The drive was short, but Charlotte was intensely aware of him beside her. The way his hands moved confidently on the wheel, the quiet Christmas music on the radio, the comfortable silence between them. Thank you for including me tonight, she said as they pulled up beside her car. It was really nice. Thank you for helping this morning. You saved the pageant, despite what you might think about my organizational skills. They sat for a moment in the warm car, neither moving to leave. Charlotte, Ethan began, then stopped. I'm really glad you're home, even if it's just for a few days. Me too, she said softly and realized she meant it. He came around to open her door. Of course he did, because Ethan Vance had been raised right, and walked her to her car. I'll see you tomorrow? For dinner? 2 o'clock, she confirmed. Should I bring anything? Just yourself. That's more than enough. The drive home was short, but Charlotte's mind raced. Tomorrow was Christmas Eve. In 36 hours, she'd be on a plane back to Boston, back to her real life. The pageant, the party, the way Lily had hugged her goodnight, the way Ethan looked at her like she was still someone special. This was just a brief interlude, but as she pulled into her parents' driveway and saw their anniversary party still glowing through the windows, Charlotte wondered if maybe, just maybe, there was more to life than the path she'd so carefully mapped out. Maybe there was room for dinosaur ornaments and sticky hugs and a man who still made her heart race after all these years. Maybe there was room for a little Christmas magic after all. Charlotte woke on Christmas Eve morning to the sound of church bells and the smell of cinnamon rolls. For a moment, she lay in her childhood bed, disoriented by the familiar surroundings. In Boston, she'd be getting ready for rounds, reviewing charts, preparing for surgery. Here, the only thing on her schedule was dinner at the Vance's house. Her phone showed 12 missed calls from the hospital. Dr. Morrison had left 3 voicemails about the Patterson case, each more urgent than the last. Charlotte listened to them with growing unease. The patient's condition had deteriorated. They might need to move the surgery up. Just a few more hours, she murmured, sending a quick text that she'd call after checking some files remotely. Downstairs, her parents were in full Christmas Eve mode. Her father was attempting to wrap last-minute presents with an engineer's precision, while her mother bustled around the kitchen preparing her famous cinnamon rolls and humming along to Christmas carols. "Morning, sweetheart. Coffee's fresh, and the rolls will be out in 5 minutes." Helen Davies looked radiant in her Christmas apron, still glowing from the successful anniversary party. "Morning?" Charlotte poured herself coffee, cradling the warm mug. "Need any help?" "You could help your father. He's been fighting with that ribbon for 20 minutes. Charlotte found her father at the dining room table, surrounded by wrapping paper, tape, and an impressive tangle of ribbon. "The key," Harold said without looking up, "is to achieve the perfect curl ratio. Too tight and it looks forced. Too loose and it lacks structure. Dad, it's ribbon, not a mathematical equation. Everything is a mathematical equation if you look at it right." He glanced up, studying her over his reading glasses. "You look tired. Hospital keeping you busy even from here?" Charlotte shrugged, not wanting to worry him. "Just checking in on a patient. Nothing urgent." "Mm-hmm." Her father's knowing look suggested he wasn't fooled. "You know, your mother and I are incredibly proud of what you've accomplished, but we also want you to be happy." "I am happy," Charlotte said automatically. "Are you?" Harold set down the ribbon, giving her his full attention. "Because from where I'm sitting, you look like someone going through the motions. When was the last time you did something just for fun? When was the last time you went on a date?" "Dad, I know, not my business. But humor an old man." "You're 32, Charlotte. You've proven yourself professionally. Maybe it's time to prove to yourself that you can have a life outside the hospital, too." Before Charlotte could respond, her mother called them for breakfast. They gathered around the kitchen table, the same one where Charlotte had done homework and shared family dinners for 18 years. The cinnamon rolls were perfect, as always, and for a moment Charlotte let herself just enjoy being home. "So," her mother said casually, "Linda Vance called this morning. She wanted to make sure you knew dinner was casual. Also mentioned that Ethan's been up since dawn cooking." "He cooks?" Charlotte asked, surprised. "Apparently quite well. Linda says he took classes after Lily's mother left. Wanted to make sure Lily had proper family dinners." Helen's expression was carefully neutral. Such a good father, that boy. Charlotte recognized a maternal campaign when she saw one. "Mom, please don't start." "Start what? I'm simply sharing information, though I will say it's nice to see you reconnecting with old friends. You seemed happy last night." She had been happy, Charlotte realized, happier than she'd been in months, maybe years. But that was dangerous thinking. She had a life in Boston, responsibilities, a career she'd sacrificed everything to build. Her phone buzzed. Another message from the hospital. Charlotte excused herself to her room, spending the next hour on calls with her team, reviewing test results and adjusting treatment plans. By the time she finished, it was nearly noon. She showered and dressed carefully, choosing jeans and a soft red sweater, casual as instructed, but still put together. As she applied light makeup, she caught herself taking extra care, and firmly told herself it had nothing to do with seeing Ethan again. The drive to the Vance's house took her through downtown Hollyford, past the shops decorated for Christmas, families out for last-minute shopping, children building snowmen in the park. It was like a Christmas card come to life, and Charlotte felt that now familiar tug of something she couldn't quite name. She pulled up to the Victorian house at exactly 2 o'clock, noticing several cars already in the driveway. Through the front window, she could see movement, hear laughter, and Christmas music. The door flew open, before she could knock. "Miss Charlotte!" Lily launched herself forward, wearing a Christmas dress with a tutu overlay. "You came! I told Daddy you would, but he was worried you might be too busy with doctor stuff. I promised, didn't I?" Charlotte presented the gift bag she'd hastily assembled that morning. "I brought some things for dessert from my mom." "Ooh, presents!" Lily peered into the bag. Come in, come in! Grandma's here, and Uncle Pete, and Aunt Sarah, and baby Jamie, and Mr. and Mrs. Chen from next door, and Lily, let her get in the door." Ethan appeared, wearing an apron that said "Kiss the Cook" and looking slightly harried. "Sorry, she's been watching for you for the last hour." "Hi." "Hi." Charlotte felt that flutter again at his welcoming smile. "I hope I'm not intruding on family dinner." "Are you kidding? Mom's been cooking for 20. She's thrilled to have someone else to feed. Fair warning, though. It's a little chaotic." He wasn't exaggerating. The house was full of people, all talking at once. Linda immediately put Charlotte to work setting the table, which gave her a chance to observe the controlled chaos of a real family Christmas. Ethan's brother Pete was trying to keep 1-year-old Jamie from eating the Christmas tree ornaments, while his wife Sarah laughed at his efforts. The elderly couple from next door shared the couch with Linda, all three working on what appeared to be a 1,000-piece puzzle. Christmas music played from hidden speakers, and the whole house smelled like roasting turkey and pine needles. "Beer? Wine? Something stronger?" Pete appeared at Charlotte's elbow. "You'll need fortification for a Vance family dinner." "Wine would be great, thanks. You're the doctor from Boston, right? The one who broke my brother's heart in high school?" "Pete!" Sarah smacked his arm. "Ignore him. He has no filter." "It's okay," Charlotte said, though her cheeks warmed. "And yes, I'm the doctor from Boston." "Well, I'm glad you're here," Sarah said warmly. "Ethan needs more adult conversation in his life. Lily's wonderful, but 7-year-olds aren't great at discussing anything besides dinosaurs and which Disney princess has the best dress." Charlotte helped wherever needed, falling into the rhythm of family dinner preparations. She found herself in the kitchen with Ethan, helping him juggle multiple dishes while Lily helped by stealing tastes of everything. "You really did learn to cook," Charlotte observed, watching him check the turkey with practiced ease. "Necessity is a great teacher. Lily deserved better than frozen dinners and takeout." He glanced at her while whisking gravy. "Though I'm nowhere near your mom's level. Those cinnamon rolls this morning were dangerous." "You talked to my mom?" "She called to check what time dinner was. Might have mentioned the rolls. Might have invited me to stop by tomorrow morning." He grinned at her expression. "What? I'm not turning down Helen Davies's Christmas morning cinnamon rolls." They worked side by side, an easy rhythm developing between them. Charlotte found herself relaxing, laughing at his stories about kitchen disasters and Lily's culinary critiques. It felt natural, being here with him, like no time had passed at all. "Daddy, is it time?" Lily appeared, bouncing impatiently. "Is the turkey ready? Can we eat? I'm starving." "You just ate half a cheese plate," Ethan pointed out. "That was appetizers. It doesn't count." Finally, everything was ready. They gathered around the extended dining table, and Charlotte found herself seated between Lily and Mrs. Chen, with Ethan directly across from her. Linda said grace, thanking God for family, friends, and the blessing of having everyone together for Christmas. The meal was cheerful chaos. Conversations flowed across and around the table, everyone talking at once. Lily regaled everyone with a detailed account of the pageant, with special emphasis on her starring role. Pete told embarrassing stories about Ethan's teenage years. Baby Jamie threw mashed potatoes with impressive accuracy. "So, Charlotte," Linda said during a brief lull, "tell us about your work in Boston. Pediatric surgery must be incredibly rewarding." Charlotte shared a few stories: the twins she'd operated on last month, the new technique she was developing for cardiac repairs, the research that might change how they treated certain congenital defects. She tried to keep it light, but she could see the genuine interest in their faces. "That's amazing," Sarah said. "You're literally saving children's lives." "It's a team effort," Charlotte deflected. "I'm just one part of it." "Don't be modest," Ethan said quietly. "What you do is extraordinary." Their eyes met across the table, and Charlotte felt that dangerous warmth spreading through her chest again. "Miss Charlotte," Lily piped up, "do you work on Christmas?" "Sometimes. Sick children don't take holidays off." "But that means you miss Christmas." Lily looked horrified. "Who gives you presents?" "Well, Charlotte paused, realizing she usually didn't bother with presents for herself. "I suppose I don't really do presents." "That's the saddest thing I ever heard," Lily declared. "Daddy, we have to give Miss Charlotte extra presents so she doesn't miss them when she's working." "Lily," Ethan started, but his daughter was already scrambling down from her chair. "I'll be right back. Nobody move." She raced upstairs, leaving the adults chuckling. "I'm sorry," Ethan said to Charlotte. "She gets a little intense about Christmas." "She's perfect," Charlotte said, meaning it. Lily returned with a wrapped box, presenting it to Charlotte with ceremony. "This is for you. I picked it out myself at the school Christmas shop." Charlotte carefully unwrapped the gift, aware that everyone was watching. Inside was a ceramic picture frame painted with rainbow colors and liberally doused with glitter. The frame held a photo from the pageant, Lily in her angel costume, beaming at the camera. "So you can remember me when you're in Boston," Lily explained. "And when you're saving sick kids, you can look at it and remember that Christmas is happy too." Charlotte felt tears prick her eyes. "This is the most beautiful present anyone's ever given me." "Thank you, Lily." Lily beamed and threw her arms around Charlotte's neck. Over the little girl's head, Charlotte caught Ethan's expression. Soft, wondering, full of something that made her heart skip. After dinner, they moved to the living room for coffee and Linda's famous Christmas cookies. Charlotte found herself on the floor with Lily, helping her build a complex block tower while the adults chatted around them. It was cozy and warm and everything Christmas should be. "You're good with her," Ethan said quietly, settling beside them with his coffee. "She makes it easy. She's a special kid, Ethan." "Yeah, she is." He watched his daughter concentrate on balancing a particularly precarious block. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing right by her, raising her alone, if she's missing out on having a mom." "She has you," Charlotte said firmly, "and Linda and this whole loving family. That's more than a lot of kids have. Still, I worry." Lily looked up at them. "Why do grown-ups always look serious when they talk? It's Christmas. You're supposed to be happy." "You're absolutely right," Ethan said, tickling her until she dissolved in giggles. The afternoon slipped into evening. Other guests gradually departed, but Charlotte found herself lingering, helping with dishes, playing board games with Lily, feeling more at home than she had anywhere in years. "Bath time, Munchkin," Ethan finally announced when Lily started yawning over Candyland. "But I'm not tired, and Miss Charlotte's still here." "Miss Charlotte will still be here when you're in your pajamas," Charlotte promised. "Go on." As Ethan took Lily upstairs, Linda settled beside Charlotte on the couch. "She's quite taken with you. The feeling's mutual." Linda sipped her coffee thoughtfully. "You know, I wasn't sure about Lily's mother from the start. Sweet girl. She never quite fit, you know. Always seemed like she had one foot out the door. But you fit here, Charlotte. You always have." "Linda, I live in Boston. I have a career, a life there." "I know, dear. I'm just making an observation." Linda patted her hand. "Life has a funny way of showing us what we need, not always what we think we want." Ethan returned, Lily trailing behind in Christmas pajamas, dragging a stuffed reindeer. 5 minutes, he said firmly. Then bed. Those 5 minutes turned into 20 as Lily showed Charlotte her favorite Christmas book, insisted on one more game, and extracted promises that Charlotte would come back to visit soon. Finally, Ethan carried a sleepy Lily upstairs. Charlotte helped Linda finish cleaning up, their conversation easy and comfortable. When Ethan came back down, Linda made her excuses and retired to the guest room, leaving them alone. "Want to sit outside for a bit?" Ethan asked. "It's actually not too cold, and the stars are incredible tonight." They bundled up and settled on the porch swing, the night crisp and clear around them. Sure enough, the stars were brilliant, unmarred by city lights. "Thank you for today," Charlotte said softly. "For including me. It's been really wonderful. Thank you for coming. Lily will be talking about this for weeks." He paused. I'll be thinking about it for longer than that. They swayed gently on the swing, shoulders touching, the silence comfortable between them. Can I ask you something? Ethan said eventually. Are you happy? Really happy, I mean. In Boston. Charlotte considered lying, giving the easy answer. But sitting here with him under the Christmas stars, she found she couldn't. I thought I was. I have everything I worked for, the career, the respect, the ability to help children. But lately, she trailed off, searching for words. Lately, I wonder if I've been so focused on the destination that I forgot to enjoy the journey. Does that make sense? Perfect sense. His hand found hers in the darkness, warm and steady. I used to be so angry that you left. But watching you these past couple days, seeing who you've become, Charlotte, you're extraordinary. You've done things I could never do, saved lives I could never save. I'm in awe of you. But? She sensed there was more. No but. Just. I hope you know that being extraordinary doesn't mean you can't also have ordinary happiness. Family dinners and bedtime stories and someone to watch the stars with. You deserve all of that too. Charlotte turned to look at him, his face silvered by moonlight. Ethan, I know. You're leaving tomorrow. I'm not asking for anything, Charlotte. I just needed you to know that. They sat in silence, hands linked, watching their breath cloud in the cold air. Charlotte's phone buzzed in her pocket, the hospital again. But she ignored it. For just this moment, she wanted to pretend that this was her life, that she could have both the extraordinary and the ordinary, that she could stay. I should go, she said finally, though every part of her wanted to remain on this swing, holding Ethan's hand, pretending the real world didn't exist. He walked her to her car, their hands still linked until the last moment. Your flight's at 3 tomorrow? She nodded, not trusting her voice. Safe travels, Charlotte. And Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, Ethan. The drive home was short, but Charlotte's vision was blurred with unshed tears. Tomorrow she'd fly back to Boston, back to her real life, back to being Dr. Davies who didn't have time for Christmas, or family dinners, or little girls who gave her glittery picture frames. But tonight, she'd had a glimpse of what life could be like if she were brave enough to want more than just professional success. And as she pulled into her parents' driveway, Charlotte realized that leaving Hollyford this time was going to be the hardest thing she'd ever done. Christmas morning dawned bright and clear, with fresh snow coating Hollyford in pristine white. Charlotte lay in bed, listening to the familiar sounds of her parents moving around downstairs, the coffee maker gurgling, her mother's favorite Christmas album playing softly. Her phone showed 27 missed calls from the hospital. The Patterson case had deteriorated overnight. Dr. Morrison's latest voicemail was terse. Charlotte, I need you to call me immediately. We may need to operate today. Charlotte's stomach clenched. 6-year-old Mia Patterson, waiting for her life-saving surgery. She dialed the hospital, moving to the window to watch the sunrise paint the snow-covered yards in shades of pink and gold. Finally, Dr. Morrison's voice was sharp. Where have you been? Mia's condition is worsening. The team thinks we should operate immediately. I can be there by tonight. Tonight might be too late. We need you here now, Charlotte. This is what you signed up for. This is the job. Charlotte closed her eyes, seeing Mia's face, her parents' desperate hope. Then she thought of Lily's glittery picture frame, of Ethan's hand in hers under the stars, of her parents waiting downstairs to share Christmas morning. Book the OR for 8 tonight, she said firmly. I'll be there. Have Dr. Patel monitor her closely, and if anything changes, this is highly irregular. It's Christmas, Richard. 8 hours won't make a difference if Patel monitors her properly. I'll be on the 3 p.m. flight. She ended the call before he could argue further, her hands shaking slightly. This was her life. These impossible choices, these constant demands. But for just a few more hours, she wanted to pretend otherwise. Downstairs, her parents had laid out a full Christmas breakfast. The tree lights twinkled, presents waited underneath, and her mother hummed while flipping pancakes. Merry Christmas, sweetheart. Helen hugged her tightly. Coffee's ready, and I made your favorite pancakes. Merry Christmas. Charlotte returned the embrace, breathing in the sense of home. Everything smells wonderful. They ate breakfast together, a leisurely meal filled with family stories and gentle teasing. Charlotte gave her parents their gifts, a new tablet for her mother, noise-canceling headphones for her father, and received the usual collection of practical presents and sentimental treasures. "Oh," her mother said casually, "Ethan Vance stopped by earlier for cinnamon rolls. He left something for you." Charlotte's heart skipped as her mother produced a small wrapped box. Inside was a delicate silver ornament, a tiny angel with a stethoscope, and a note in Ethan's familiar handwriting, "For your tree in Boston. So you remember that you can save lives and still believe in Christmas magic." Charlotte blinked back tears, carefully cradling the ornament. "Such a thoughtful boy," her mother murmured. "He mentioned they'd be at the park for sledding this morning if you wanted to stop by before your flight." Charlotte looked at her parents, these people who'd supported every dream, every ambition, even when it took her far from home. "Would you mind if I go?" her father said gently. "We'll have you for Easter maybe, or summer." "Go, Charlotte." The park was alive with families enjoying Christmas morning. Children shrieked with delight as they flew down the hill on sleds. Parents stood in clusters with hot chocolate, and snowball fights broke out spontaneously. Charlotte spotted them immediately, Ethan pushing Lily on a sled, both of them laughing. Lily wore a bright pink snowsuit and a hat with cat ears. Ethan looked younger somehow, carefree in a way she rarely saw. "Miss Charlotte." Lily spotted her first, abandoning her sled to run over. "You came. Daddy said you might be too busy with Christmas morning, but I knew you'd come. Want to sled with me?" "I'd love to." What followed was an hour of pure joy. Charlotte hadn't been sledding in 15 years, but muscle memory took over. She and Lily raced down the hill, sometimes with Ethan, sometimes alone, always laughing. They built a lopsided snowman, started and lost a snowball fight, and made snow angels in a perfect row. "This is the best Christmas ever," Lily declared, throwing herself into the snow dramatically. "I wish it could last forever." Charlotte's phone buzzed. Her flight reminder. 3 hours until she had to leave for the airport. "Everything okay?" Ethan asked quietly, noticing her check the time. "Just real life intruding." He nodded, understanding without explanation. "Lily, hot chocolate time!" They walked to the park's concession stand, Lily chattering about her Christmas presents and plans for winter break. Charlotte tried to memorize every moment, the way Lily's mittened hand felt in hers, Ethan's laugh when Lily got whipped cream on her nose, the perfect ordinariness of it all. "I have something for you," Ethan said while Lily was distracted by a friend from school. He pulled out a manila envelope. "It's not exactly a Christmas present, more of a possibility." Inside was a newspaper clipping about Hollyford General Hospital expanding its pediatric wing and looking for a director of pediatric surgery. Someone to build the program from scratch, train staff, create protocols. A chance to save lives while still having a life. "Ethan, I know it's presumptuous. I know you have an amazing career in Boston, but when I saw this, I couldn't help thinking." He trailed off, vulnerable hope in his eyes. "You don't have to say anything. Just think about it." Charlotte stared at the posting, her mind racing. It would be a step backward professionally. Smaller hospital, fewer resources, less prestige. But also regular hours, time for family dinners, the chance to build something meaningful in the community where she grew up. "Daddy, can Miss Charlotte come for Christmas dinner tonight?" Lily appeared, chocolate mustache intact. "Grandma always makes too much food." "Honey, Miss Charlotte has to go back to Boston today." Lily's face fell. "But it's Christmas. Nobody should be alone on Christmas." Charlotte's heart clenched. In a few hours, she'd be on a plane. By tonight, she'd be in surgery, saving a life. Tomorrow, she'd be back to 18-hour days and empty apartments and meals eaten standing up between procedures. "I wish I could stay," she told Lily honestly. "But there's a little girl in Boston who's very sick. She needs me to help make her better." "Oh." Lily considered this seriously. "That's important. But will you come back soon?" Charlotte glanced at Ethan, then at the hospital posting still in her hand. I'll try. Pinky promise?" Lily held out her mittened pinky. Pinky promise. They walked back to where the cars were parked, Lily skipping ahead to pet someone's dog. Charlotte and Ethan fell behind, walking slowly, neither ready for goodbye. "Thank you for this morning," Charlotte said. "For the ornament, for everything. Thank you for coming, for giving us these few days." He stopped walking, turning to face her. "Charlotte, I need to say this, even if the timing is impossible. These past 3 days, they've been everything. You fit here. With Lily, with my family, with me. And I know you have this whole life in Boston, and I'd never ask you to give that up. But, Ethan, I'm falling in love with you again." The words rushed out. "Or maybe I never stopped. And I know that's not fair to tell you right before you leave, but I couldn't let you go without—" Charlotte kissed him. There in the snowy parking lot, with families all around and Lily 20 feet away, she kissed him like she was 18 again, like there were no complicated logistics or impossible choices, like love was enough to solve everything. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Ethan's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "I have to go," Charlotte whispered. "My flight." "I know." He cupped her face gently. "But maybe this doesn't have to be goodbye. Maybe it's just, see you later. Daddy, Miss Charlotte, look, it's snowing again." Lily came running back, arms spread wide to catch snowflakes. Charlotte hugged Lily tightly, memorizing the feel of small arms around her neck, the scent of hot chocolate and snow. "You take care of your daddy, okay?" "I will." "And you take care of the sick kids. And don't forget to look at my picture when you're sad." One more hug for Ethan, quick but fierce. And then Charlotte was in her car, driving away while snow began to fall in earnest. In her rearview mirror, she could see them standing there, Ethan's arm around Lily's shoulders, both waving until she turned the corner. At home, her parents had her bags ready. They drove her to the airport in gentle silence, understanding without words that something significant had shifted. "You could stay," her mother said quietly as they pulled up to departures. "If you wanted to. Whatever's in Boston, it'll still be there tomorrow. There's a little girl who needs surgery tonight. I can't let her down." "Of course not." Helen hugged her tightly. "That's who you are. But Charlotte, being needed isn't the same as being happy. Don't forget that." The flight to Boston was turbulent, matching Charlotte's inner turmoil. She stared out the window at clouds and tried to focus on the surgery ahead, on Mia Patterson's complex case, on the life she was returning to. But her thoughts kept drifting to a snowy park, to brown eyes full of love, to a little girl who'd given her a glittery picture frame and made her promise to come back. Her phone, finally back in service, showed multiple messages from the hospital, but also one from Ethan. "Lily made me text to make sure you landed safely. She also wants you to know she's already planning your room for when you visit. It's going to be pink, very pink. Thank you for everything, Charlotte." Charlotte typed and deleted a dozen responses before settling on, "landed safely. Give Lily my love." The posting from the hospital. "I'm thinking about it." She hit send before she could second-guess herself, then turned off her phone. In 90 minutes, she'd be scrubbed in, saving a life, being the surgeon she'd worked so hard to become. But for the first time in her career, Charlotte wondered if being an extraordinary surgeon was worth the cost of an ordinary life. And as Boston's skyline came into view, gray and crowded after Hollyford's snowy perfection, she realized she already knew the answer. The question was, what was she brave enough to do about it? The surgery had been a success. 6-year-old Mia Patterson was recovering in the PICU, her repaired heart beating steadily, her parents crying grateful tears by her bedside. Charlotte should have felt the familiar rush of satisfaction, the adrenaline high that came from saving a life. Instead, she felt empty. She stood at the windows of the hospital corridor, still in her scrubs, watching Boston wake up the day after Christmas. The city was already back to business. The brief holiday pause over, taxis honked, people hurried along sidewalks, life moved at its relentless pace. "Nice work in there," Dr. Morrison appeared beside her, coffee in hand. Though cutting it close on timing, another few hours and we might have lost her. Charlotte didn't respond, still staring at the city below. I need to talk to you about something, he continued. Johns Hopkins called. They want you for their new pediatric cardiac program. Full autonomy, unlimited resources, chance to write your own ticket. It's the opportunity of a lifetime, Charlotte. 6 months ago, she would have been ecstatic. Johns Hopkins was the pinnacle, the dream job every surgeon wanted. Now, all she could think about was a little girl in a pink snowsuit and a man who still made her heart race after 14 years. When do they need an answer? End of the week. Charlotte, this is what you've worked for. Don't overthink it. But overthinking was all she did for the next 3 days. She threw herself into work, taking extra shifts, avoiding her empty apartment. The glittery picture frame sat on her office desk, Lily's beaming face a constant reminder of what she'd left behind. Her phone rang constantly. Colleagues congratulating her on the Hopkins offer. How did news travel so fast? Her parents checking in. Texts from Boston friends wanting to celebrate her success. She ignored them all, except for one daily text from Ethan. Simple updates about Lily, photos of snow angels, no pressure, just reminders that somewhere in New Hampshire, life was continuing without her. On December 28th, everything changed. Charlotte was reviewing charts when her phone rang. Hollyford General Hospital. Dr. Davies? This is Dr. Robert Chen from Hollyford General. I'm calling about our pediatric surgery position. We received your application this morning. Charlotte's hand froze. My application? Yes. Your credentials are impressive. Honestly, we never dreamed someone of your caliber would be interested in our small program. When can you come for an interview? There must be a mistake. I didn't submit an application. Oh. Dr. Chen sounded confused. We received it electronically this morning, with all your documentation, perhaps your assistant. Could you email me a copy of what you received? Charlotte's hands shook as she opened the forwarded email. It was all there. Her CV, letters of recommendation, even a cover letter she didn't remember writing. Then she saw the sender's email address, hdavies@hollyfordhs.edu. Her father. Anger flared hot and immediate. How dare he? How dare he make this choice for her, interfere in her life like she was still a child who needed guidance? She called him immediately. Dad, what did you do? I gave you an option, Harold said calmly. That's all. You can ignore it, tell them it was a mistake. But I couldn't stand watching you disappear into that hospital, giving up everything for a job that's killing you slowly. You had no right. I'm your father. I have every right to want you happy. And Charlotte, you haven't been happy in years. Until this Christmas. Until you came home. Charlotte ended the call furious and confused. She tried to focus on work, but her concentration was shot. Finally, she gave up and walked to her apartment through the bitter Boston wind. Her apartment was exactly as she'd left it. Sterile, impersonal, more like a hotel room than a home. No Christmas decorations, no personal touches, nothing that suggested a life lived outside the hospital. She sat on her couch, still in her scrubs, and really looked at her life. The prestigious career, the publications, the respect of her peers, and against that, Lily's laugh, Ethan's smile, family dinners, snow angels, the possibility of building something meaningful in the place where she'd grown up. Her phone rang. Ethan. Hi, she answered, her voice small. Hey, I heard what your dad did. Charlotte, I swear I didn't know. I would never. I know. She did know. This had Harold Davies written all over it. How did you find out? Small town. Dr. Chen is Linda's cousin. He called her, very excited about the possibility of recruiting you. She called me, furious that I'd been keeping secrets. He paused. Are you angry? Yes. No. I don't know. Charlotte pulled her knees to her chest. Johns Hopkins offered me a position, head of pediatric cardiac surgery. It's everything I've worked for. Silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken fears. That's amazing, Ethan said finally. You deserve that. You deserve everything. Do I? Because right now, I'm sitting in my empty apartment, and I can't remember the last time I cooked a meal, or saw a movie, or had a conversation that wasn't about work. I'm 32 years old and my life is just work. Charlotte, I miss you." The words tumbled out. "I miss Lily. I miss the way I felt in Hollyford, like I was part of something bigger than just my next surgery. And that terrifies me because I've worked so hard to get here. And what if I'm throwing it all away for some Christmas fantasy? Is that what you think this is? A fantasy?" Charlotte wiped tears she hadn't realized were falling. "I don't know what to think anymore." "Okay." Ethan's voice was gentle. "Let me tell you what I know. I know that you're brilliant and dedicated and you save children's lives. I know that matters. But I also know that you lit up when you were helping with the pageant, that you looked at peace sitting on my porch swing, that Lily hasn't stopped talking about you for 3 days. That's not fantasy, Charlotte. That's life. Real, messy, beautiful life. The position at Hollyford, it's a huge step backward. Smaller hospital, limited resources, but you'd be building something. Creating a program that could serve the whole region, and you'd have time for other things. For us, if you wanted. For the family I think we could be." Charlotte's heart raced. "Ethan, are you asking me to come home?" "I'm asking you to consider what would make you happy. Really happy, not just professionally satisfied, but personally fulfilled. And if that's Johns Hopkins, then take it. I'll be your biggest cheerleader. But if there's a part of you that wants something different, I need time to think." "Of course, Charlotte. Whatever you decide, these past few days have been everything to me. To us. That won't change." After they hung up, Charlotte sat in the gathering darkness, city lights twinkling outside her windows. She thought about Mia Patterson, alive because of her skills, thought about all the children she could save at Johns Hopkins with unlimited resources. Then she thought about Lily's face when Charlotte had agreed to help with the pageant, Ethan's hand in hers under the stars, her parents' joy at having her home, the Hollyford children who currently had to travel 2 hours for specialized care. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number with a photo attached. She opened it to find a picture of a hospital room. No, a hotel room near the hospital. Her hospital. And in the bed. Charlotte's blood ran cold. It was Ethan's ex-wife, Melissa, and the timestamp was from tonight. The message read, "Thought you should know he's been texting me about reconciling. Guess small-town boys never change, M." Charlotte stared at the photo, her mind reeling. Ethan had said Melissa left 4 years ago, that she wasn't part of their lives. But here she was, in Boston, in a hotel room, claiming. Another text, this time a screenshot of messages. Ethan's name at the top. Recent dates, talk of meeting up, of Lily needing a mother, of second chances. Charlotte's phone slipped from numb fingers. Of course it had been too good to be true. She'd been gone 3 days and he was all ready. No, something felt wrong. She retrieved her phone, studying the messages more carefully. The language didn't sound like Ethan, too formal, too calculated. And why would Melissa suddenly appear now, after 4 years? But doubt crept in, insidious and poisonous. She'd only been home 4 days. What did she really know about Ethan's life now? Maybe he'd been texting his ex all along. Maybe Charlotte was just a Christmas distraction, a what-if to explore while his real life waited in the wings. Her apartment felt colder, emptier. Charlotte pulled on running clothes and hit the streets, trying to outrun the pain blooming in her chest. But every stride brought new doubts. Had she really been ready to upend her entire life for someone she'd spent 4 days with? Was her father right to submit that application? Or had he saved her from making a terrible mistake? By the time she returned home, Charlotte had made her decision. She pulled out her laptop and typed 2 emails, one to Johns Hopkins accepting their offer, one to Hollyford General withdrawing from consideration. Then she blocked Ethan's number, deleted the photos from her phone, and tried to pretend her heart wasn't breaking all over again. The next morning, she threw herself into work with renewed determination. This was her life. This was what she was meant to do. Hollyford had been a beautiful dream, but dreams weren't reality. But even as she scrubbed in for surgery, even as she saved another life, Charlotte couldn't forget the sound of Lily's laugh or the feeling of coming home. And somewhere deep inside, a small voice whispered that she was making the biggest mistake of her life. Charlotte had been in Baltimore for exactly 72 hours, and it was all wrong. The prestigious Johns Hopkins Hospital tour, the state-of-the-art facilities, the team of world-renowned surgeons eager to work with her, none of it filled the hollow ache in her chest. She stood in what would be her new office, overlooking the Baltimore harbor, and felt nothing but emptiness. Her phone, silent since she'd blocked Ethan's number, suddenly rang. Her mother, Charlotte Elizabeth Davies. "What have you done?" "Hello to you too, Mom. Don't you hello me. Linda Vance just told me you withdrew your application from Hollyford General, and Ethan says you won't return his calls. What happened?" Charlotte sank into the desk chair. "It's complicated. Then uncomplicated. Because from where I'm sitting, you're about to make the biggest mistake of your life." "Mom, you don't understand, Ethan. There are things you don't know." "Like what?" "That his ex-wife has been stirring up trouble? That she showed up in Boston claiming all sorts of nonsense? Charlotte, I thought you were smarter than this." Charlotte's heart stopped. "You knew? The whole town knows. Melissa came back 3 days ago, making a scene, demanding to see Lily. Ethan sent her packing. The woman was always trouble. But to try to manipulate you with fake messages?" "Fake messages?" Charlotte's voice was barely a whisper. "Oh, honey, you didn't actually believe her, did you? Ethan's been beside himself. He even drove to Boston yesterday. But the hospital said you were in Baltimore." Her mother's voice gentled. "Charlotte, that man is head over heels in love with you. He has been since you were 18. Charlotte stared out at the Baltimore skyline, her mind racing. Fake messages. Melissa trying to manipulate her, and she'd believed it, had thrown away everything because of a few suspicious texts. "I have to go," she told her mother. "Charlotte, I'll call you back." She immediately unblocked Ethan's number. 27 missed calls, 43 texts. The most recent from this morning. "I don't know what Melissa told you, but none of it was true. Please, Charlotte, just talk to me." With shaking fingers, she called him. He answered on the first ring. "Charlotte? Thank God. I've been going crazy. The messages were fake." "What messages?" "Melissa showed up here 3 days ago, out of the blue, talking about wanting to see Lily. I told her to leave. She said she was going to Boston, had some business there." "Charlotte, I haven't spoken to that woman in 4 years except through lawyers. She sent me screenshots. Messages between you two about reconciling." "What?" "Charlotte, no, never. I would never." He paused. "She still has my old phone number. She could have faked those easily." "Oh God, you believed her?" Charlotte felt tears sliding down her cheeks. "I'm so sorry. It seemed too good to be true, us. And when I saw those messages, I thought, where are you? I'll come to you. We can talk this through. I'm in Baltimore, at Johns Hopkins." I accepted their offer. Silence stretched between them, heavy with regret. "I see," Ethan said quietly. "Is that what you want? Really want?" Charlotte looked around the pristine office, thought about the prestige, the resources, the career pinnacle she'd reached. Then she thought about snow angels and Christmas pageants and a little girl who'd made her promise to come back. "No," she admitted. "No, it's not what I want at all." "Then come home, Charlotte. Please, come home. I signed a contract. You're a brilliant surgeon. They'll understand if you change your mind, but you have to decide what you really want, not what you think you should want, not what others expect. What does Charlotte Davies want?" Charlotte closed her eyes, seeing it all clearly for the first time. "I want Sunday dinners and bedtime stories. I want to build something meaningful in the place where I grew up. I want to wake up next to you and help Lily with homework and have the life I've been too scared to admit I've always wanted." "Then come home," he repeated. "We'll figure out the rest. It's not that simple. I have obligations here, surgery scheduled. When has anything with us ever been simple?" She could hear the smile in his voice. "But that doesn't mean it's not worth fighting for." Charlotte made her decision. "I need to handle things here. Make arrangements, talk to the board. It might take a few days. Take all the time you need. We'll be waiting. Ethan, I love you. I think I've loved you since I was 18 years old." "I know," he said softly. "I love you too. Always have." The next 3 days were a whirlwind. Charlotte met with the Johns Hopkins board explaining her change of heart. They weren't happy, but they understood. Personal circumstances, she said. Family obligations. They agreed to release her from the contract with minimal penalties. She worked with her Boston team to transition her patients, ensuring continuity of care. Packed up her sterile apartment, donating furniture she'd barely used, said goodbye to colleagues who couldn't understand why she was throwing away such an opportunity. And on New Year's Eve, she drove north. The familiar streets of Hollyford were lit with holiday lights. Families preparing for the new year. Charlotte drove straight to the Victorian house with the wraparound porch, her heart pounding. Ethan opened the door before she could knock, and for a moment they just stared at each other. Then she was in his arms, and he was kissing her, and everything finally felt right. "You came back," he murmured against her lips. "I came home," she corrected. "If you'll have me." "Always," he promised. "Always." "Miss Charlotte." Lily barreled into them, wrapping her arms around Charlotte's legs. "You came back. I knew you would. Daddy said we had to be patient, but I knew. Are you staying? Please say you're staying." Charlotte knelt down to Lily's level. "I'm staying, if that's okay with you." Lily's face lit up like Christmas morning. "Forever? Well, I have to work at the hospital here and find a place to live, and—" "You can live with us," Lily announced. "We have a spare room. It's not pink yet, but we can paint it." "Lily," Ethan said gently, "Miss Charlotte might want her own place." "Actually," Charlotte said, looking up at him, "I'd rather be here, with both of you." "If that's too fast." "It's 14 years in the making," Ethan said. "I don't think that qualifies as too fast." They spent New Year's Eve together, the three of them. Lily insisted on staying up until midnight, fueled by hot chocolate and excitement. They played board games, told stories, and watched the ball drop on TV. As midnight approached, Lily had curled up on the couch, fighting sleep. "I have a New Year's wish," she announced. "Want to hear it?" "Of course," Charlotte said, smoothing back her hair. "I wish that Miss Charlotte becomes my mom. Not my real mom because she left and that's okay. But my heart mom, the one who stays." Charlotte felt tears prick her eyes. She looked at Ethan, who was watching her with so much love it took her breath away. "I think," Charlotte said carefully, "that's the best wish I've ever heard." "So it'll come true?" "I think it already has," Ethan said, pulling Charlotte close. "Look, it's almost midnight." They counted down together, Lily drowsy but determined. And as the clock struck 12, as fireworks exploded on the television and a new year began, Ethan kissed Charlotte like a promise, like a beginning, like coming home. "Happy New Year, Dr. Davies," he whispered. "Happy New Year," she replied. And for the first time in her adult life, Charlotte truly meant it. Christmas Eve, 1 year later. "Lily Vance, hold still!" Charlotte laughed, trying to braid ribbons into her daughter's hair. Her daughter. The thought still made her heart swell, even 6 months after the adoption was finalized. "I can't hold still. I'm too excited. It's Christmas Eve, and the pageant is tonight, and Grandma Helen made cookies and—" "Breathe," Charlotte instructed, securing the final ribbon. "There, perfect." Lily examined herself in the mirror, adjusting her angel costume critically. This year, she was the narrator, a position of great responsibility that she'd been practicing for weeks. "Do you think Daddy will cry again?" Lily asked. "He cried last year when you came back, and he cried at your wedding, and when the adoption papers came through. Daddy cries a lot for a boy. Happy tears are different," Charlotte said, kissing the top of Lily's head. "And yes, he'll probably cry. So will I, and Grandma Helen, and Grandma Linda, and probably Mrs. Chen." Lily sighed dramatically. Adults are very emotional. A knock at the door interrupted them. "My girls ready?" Ethan called. "We need to leave in 10 minutes if we want to get good seats for Mommy." Charlotte's heart still skipped when he called her Mommy in Lily's presence. She opened the door to find her husband in his Christmas sweater, the ridiculous one with the reindeer that Lily had picked out, looking handsome and happy, and hers. "Beautiful," he said, but he was looking at Charlotte, not Lily's costume. "Both of you." "Daddy, you're being gross again," Lily complained, but she was grinning. The Hollyford Community Center was packed, just like last year. But this time, Charlotte was backstage in scrubs, the new pediatric surgery program, having been called for an emergency consultation just hours before. She'd made it back just in time. Dr. Davies Vance, there you are. Margaret Henley, fully recovered and back to directing, beckoned her over. We saved you a spot stage left. Wouldn't want you to miss Lily's big moment. Charlotte had officially kept her maiden name for professional purposes, but everyone in town called her Dr. Davies Vance, or, more often, Doc Charlotte. In the past year, she'd built the pediatric surgery program from scratch, recruited 2 junior surgeons, and established partnerships with Boston hospitals for complex cases. She worked reasonable hours, was home for dinner most nights, and had never been happier. "Places, everyone!" Margaret called. Charlotte found her spot where she could see both the stage and the audience. Her parents were in the 3rd row, her mother already clutching tissues. Linda Vance sat beside them, holding baby James while Pete and Sarah wrangled their 2-year-old. The Chen family had their usual spots. Half her surgical team was scattered through the audience, having adopted the pageant as an annual tradition. And there, front row center, was Ethan. He caught her eye and winked, holding up his phone to record. The lights dimmed, and Lily stepped onto the stage, poised and confident, in a way that belied her 8 years. She'd grown so much in the past year, blossoming under the security of a stable, loving home. "Welcome to Hollyford's 61st annual Christmas pageant," Lily began, her voice clear and strong. "Tonight, we tell the story of a miracle. But miracles aren't just for Christmas. Sometimes they happen when people come home. Sometimes they happen when families find each other. And sometimes," she looked directly at Charlotte, "they happen when you're brave enough to choose love." Charlotte felt tears sliding down her cheeks. This wasn't in the script, so sit back, relax, and remember that Christmas magic is real. I know, because it brought my mom home. The pageant proceeded with its usual charming chaos. The dinosaur had negotiated a speaking role this year. 2 angels got into a tinsel fight. The Star of Bethlehem worked perfectly until the final scene, when it crashed down dramatically, missing Joseph by inches. But Charlotte barely noticed the mishaps. All she could see was her daughter, radiant with joy, telling the Christmas story with the conviction of someone who truly believed in miracles. After the pageant, the fellowship hall was chaos. Charlotte fielded congratulations on Lily's performance while keeping one eye on the exit. She had one more surprise planned for tonight. "Family meeting," she announced, pulling Ethan and Lily aside. "Quick detour before the cast party." "But Mom, I'm the narrator. I have to." "5 minutes," Charlotte promised. "Trust me." She drove them through Hollyford's snowy streets to a small Cape Cod house 3 blocks from their Victorian. It had a sold sign in the yard, and every window glowed with warm light. "Why are we stopping here?" Ethan asked. Charlotte pulled a key from her pocket. "Remember Mrs. Patterson from the hospital? Her daughter, Mia, the one I operated on last Christmas? The one who comes to your office for follow-ups? Sweet kid. Well, her dad got transferred here for work. They needed a house." Charlotte took a breath, and we needed more space. "Charlotte, what did you do?" She opened the front door to reveal their furniture, their photos, their life relocated to this bigger, better house. The Christmas tree stood in the front window, Lily's dinosaur ornament prominently displayed. "You bought us a house?" Ethan breathed. "We need more bedrooms," Charlotte said simply. "For when the baby comes. For when the—" Ethan stopped, his eyes widening. "Charlotte, are you—" 12 weeks. Due in June." She grinned at his stunned expression. "Surprise? A baby?" Lily shrieked. "I'm going to be a big sister? Really? This is the best Christmas ever." Ethan pulled Charlotte into his arms, laughing and crying simultaneously. "When did you— How long have you— I found out 2 weeks ago." The house came up for sale the same day. It felt like a sign. She gestured to the space around them. 4 bedrooms, big backyard, walking distance to the hospital and school. "Room to grow. It's perfect," Ethan said, kissing her soundly. "You're perfect. This is perfect." "Can the baby have the pink room?" Lily asked, already planning. "Or should I have the pink room and the baby gets purple?" Oh, can we get bunk beds? Madison has bunk beds and they're the coolest. As Lily raced through the house, discovering each room with delighted squeals, Ethan held Charlotte close. 1 year, he murmured. 1 year ago you came back, and now look at us. Best decision I ever made, Charlotte said. Well, second best. Leaving the first time taught me what really mattered. I just took the long way home. Next Christmas we'll have a baby, Ethan marveled. Next Christmas we'll be a family of 4, Charlotte corrected. Think we can handle it? Together? We can handle anything. Later, at the cast party in their new home, surrounded by family and friends and the community that had welcomed Charlotte back with open arms, she stood by the window watching snow fall on Hollyford. Her hand rested on her still flat stomach, wedding ring catching the light from the Christmas tree. Penny for your thoughts, Linda said, joining her with 2 mugs of cocoa. Just thinking about Christmas miracles, Charlotte said, and how sometimes the best gifts are the ones you don't even know you need. Like coming home? Like coming home. Across the room, Ethan was helping Lily demonstrate her narrator stance for the 20th time, both of them laughing. Her parents were deep in conversation with the Chens about golf handicaps. The house was full of light and laughter and love. Dr. Charlotte Davies Vance, pediatric surgeon, wife, mother, and member of the Hollyford community, was exactly where she belonged. She'd saved lives in Boston, built a career anyone would envy, but here, in this small New Hampshire town, she'd built a life. And that, she thought as Ethan caught her eye and smiled that smile that still made her heart race, was the greatest Christmas miracle of all. Outside, church bells began to ring, welcoming Christmas Day. Lily abandoned her performance to press her nose against the window. Mom! It's snowing harder. Can we build a snowman tomorrow? Can we have pancakes? Can we tell the baby about how you came home last Christmas? We can do all of that, Charlotte promised, pulling her daughter close. And so much more. Best Christmas ever. Lily sighed contentedly. No, Ethan said, wrapping his arms around both of them, his hand joining Charlotte's over their growing child. Best Christmas so far. Something tells me they're only going to get better. And as the snow fell on Hollyford, as another Christmas Eve gave way to Christmas morning, as their new house filled with the sounds of family and celebration, Charlotte knew he was right. She'd spent years thinking success meant saving lives in a big city hospital. But real success, she'd learned, was so much more. It was Lily's hand in hers during the pageant. It was Ethan's kiss in the kitchen while cookies burned. It was her mother's tears of joy and her father's quiet pride. It was building something meaningful in the place that had shaped her and discovering that sometimes the biggest adventures happened when you came home. Merry Christmas, Mrs. Davies Vance, Ethan whispered as midnight approached. Merry Christmas, Mr. Vance, she whispered back. And it was. Oh, it truly was. Thank you for joining us tonight on Christmas Stories for Sleep. As Charlotte discovered her way home to love and family in the snowy town of Hollyford, we hope her journey has brought you peace and comfort. May your dreams be filled with the warmth of Christmas magic, the joy of second chances, and the gentle reminder that sometimes the greatest adventures begin when we find the courage to come home. Sleep well, and may your own story be blessed with love, hope, and the miracle of new beginnings. From all of us at Christmas Stories for Sleep, we wish you the sweetest of dreams and the merriest of Christmases. Good night.